This is just my sound test. That's loud. Okay, great. Okay, this is my project. This is me. This is my Bitmoji, and I made a dance with Elm and WebGL, and there's one other dance that I'm going to show you. Cool. Well, all right. Next slide. So this is what I will talk about in order. And the first thing I'm going to talk about is what is Bitmoji. A lot of people have asked me that when I show this project. This is my Bitmoji. This is kind of one of the more neutral poses, but Bitmoji just lets you on your phone inside of your Snapchat app. I think you can make an avatar that looks like you, and then you can send stickers where you're in different poses. So you can also install the Chrome extension, which allows it to show up on your GitHub PRs. And so all of these are just like they're just images. So you can kind of just browse through. And if you have the app, it's a really fun app because if you have any friends on Snapchat, you can make combined comics, and it's pretty great. Okay, cool. So slide 2, WebGL. Luckily, Thais already explained a lot about math on the GPU, which is nice because I didn't have a slide for it. This is the shader language called GLSL, and essentially, one of these a shader program corresponds to running for one of the little dots in Thais' slide through the many pipelines. So essentially, this program runs for every pixel on your canvas, and the output of this program is what color do you want to assign to that pixel on the canvas. And so the main input that you deal with is the coordinate, the XY coordinate where you are on the canvas. And then step 1 is you do some math and you get a color, and then you assign that color to this global variable called GL frag color. So the do some math part is where you do all the interesting stuff. And there's this built-in function called texture2D, which allows you to sample a pixel from another image. So you can load up another image globally. It's called a uniform when you load something globally and use it in your shader program. And then the texture2D lets you say, take the same, for the coordinate that I am on the canvas, use that same coordinate on the image. So that would just let you draw a one-for-one image, which is not maybe super interesting, which is where Elm comes in. And so WebGL in general runs in the context of JavaScript or your browser runtime. And so because WebGL programs themselves only run once per pixel, you still need another program outside of it that's kind of the host program that will orchestrate the rest of your app and pass in all the information into WebGL that it needs to know about in order to compute the pixels. So this is a part of the Bitmoji project. And this is where I load the Bitmoji uniform. And you can kind of see it's just one of a bunch of things that I'm loading from outside of my Elm app into the WebGL canvas. And I'm not going to spend too much, there's nothing interesting here. But this one's a little more interesting. In Elm, there's this kind of syntax for writing shader programs inside of your Elm file. So the rest of this is Elm, but once you do GLSL, then you kind of transition into shader world. And then the Elm compiler checks that the types that you use inside of your shader are consistent with the types that you're using outside. So that prevents like black screen errors. The Bitmoji was the same kind of concept we were talking about before. That's where I load the external image into the shader program. And then all of these other uniforms are different pieces of the image that I want to animate. The one interesting thing about WebGL is that you generally don't do very much dynamic stuff because the GLSL compiler, for instance, will unroll for loops for you so that it can be made faster on the GPU. So like even a for loop, you can't go to a variable number of iterations. You have anything that is going to be run in a loop. The shader program during compile time needs to know exactly how many times it's going to be run. So that's why this looks kind of maybe weird maybe these would be a list in another world, but in GLSL world, it's just a lot of variables. You can use structs to make them prettier, but Elm doesn't support that yet. The next part of my shader program is the dance function, where all the magic happens. And dancing, as we all know, is just a function of time and position of your and there's some math in there, but like more interestingly is just that you call dance with all the points that you want to use to influence your dance. And the texture 2D call, instead of sampling from the same point in the image that you're representing on the canvas space, you adjust that point ever so slightly based on time and the different variables that you want to use to affect your dance. So essentially these variables are kind of, I call them anchors in my code base, where you say I want this point to move along this sine function and this drastically. So I had some hard-coded dances, the lean and the disco wave. And these are the numbers for defining the lean, but it was honestly just like, try it and see. So I made this UI that's a little bit nicer. It's the same app, but right now I'm hiding controls. I can also show the different anchors. Right now the head is only moving along the y-axis, but I can make it move along the x-axis. And I can also move where that anchor is. And then you can make it really fast or really slow, which is this one. Yeah, and this is live also on bitmoji.glitch.me. But you can also drag and drop any of your Bitmojis. Let's try this one. So like, yeah, you kind of have to mess with it to make it look like dancing. Oh, now he's just struggling. Oh, actually, that's kind of cool. You just can't lift it. It's sad. Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, given that if you drag and drop into it, it'll be your Bitmoji, not mine. And so, given that I can take any Bitmoji and animate it, I decided to make a music video. So this is the greatest work of my life. Alright, don't laugh, it's the greatest work of my life.
I like boys. I like the pretty boys with the bow tie. Get your nails did. I like a sweet face.
So I've been told I should make a TikTok. I don't think I will. But I did tweet it. So at HK Gums, you can take out your phone if you want and just give it a quick retweet. The goal is to get Glitch to retweet me, and the stretch goal is to get Lizzo to retweet me. I'll remember all of you if you do. All right, thanks.